Good morning, you all. It is Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock. I'm CJ Peterson here with Mr. Michael Scott Clifton.
How are y'all this
And
morning?
I have had a day. I mean, I've had a week. I'm telling you right now, this has been like the worst week ever. Like, we went from on Tuesday morning, our microwave blew. And if you know anything about us and microwaves, you know how important the microwave is in our house. I know some people can get away without them, but being only two of us, which I'm sure you can, understand, you really do need to have a microwave because we don't, we cook in bulk and then we just kind of make sure to warm everything up. So there's that. And to save money, we went ahead and we installed it ourselves. So needless to say, both of us probably needed stitches by the time we were done because of all the metal cuts. So just telling you, pay the 170. Okay. That's number one. Well, then the next day, the up upward part of we have like a fridge and freeze where it was like the refrigerator was on top and the freezer was on the bottom. So the top of the refrigerator has been going up and down, up and down, up and down, and it finally just decided, you know what, we're done. So it quit on us the next day. But the freezer was like kicking butt and taking names. So we're like, okay, so we go buy a refrigerator. And I don't know if you're aware of everything going on around us, but getting refrigerators and appliances is not an easy task. We ordered it last week and we just got it this morning. But we had to compromise because the ones that we wanted, we couldn't get until like mid-November. It was ridiculous. And I'm like, but we don't have a fridge. So it was kind of a little painful. And then we got up this morning from the 3-day Comic Con that we just came from, which, as you know, anybody who's been to Comic Cons knows that that's exhausting. And we thought, okay, we needed to move the hutch. I swear the guy built the house around this refrigerator. And I mean the entire house, not just the kitchen. We thought initially it was just the kitchen. So we had to move the hutch. In order to do the hutch, we had to make sure that it was cleared off. And yes, Leroy usuries, yes, appliances are crazy hard to get. And so it's like we had to make sure that we got that cleaned off. And then because we just replaced the microwave, we had to pull the oven out to do so. We didn't think the water line was behind the oven. So we pulled the fridge out to empty the freezer and to unplug the water line. So all they had to do was put it in, plug it in, and be done, right? No. We pulled the fridge freezer out, and the line went behind one of the drawers. So we had to pull the drawer out. And then we realized that no, it actually goes through behind the oven. So then we had to pull the oven out. And then we realized no, it went through another cupboard. So we had to empty that cupboard all the way to underneath our sink. And I had to clear out half of underneath the sink. And if you know anything about me, you know that I am a clean freak and we never run out of cleaners. So underneath our sink was very painful. A bin and a large box to empty out just half of it. And so I'm like, okay, this really stinks. So we emptied all that out. The guys got here. They got the other fridge in great. We saved ourselves 2 inches, which 2 inches on a fridge actually does make a huge amount of difference. Only to find out that they couldn't get the old refrigerator out the same way they got the new one. They had to take the door off the hinges to get it through the outside door. And so they have to carry it like around. And it was just, worth every penny for them to install and move our fridge freezer outside because it was a nightmare. I was just like, our poor cat's like having moving PTSD. He's like running around going, what's going on? You guys were gone all weekend. Now we're boxing everything up. And our dog, thankfully, is at the kennel because of the Comic Con. So that was our weekend. How was yours?
Well, nothing quite as dramatic as yours. Our internet has been out since Sunday. Thank goodness that we don't have any teenagers left at home, or of course
Oh,
life would have ended, and wouldn't be worth living anymore. So
pretty much.
we're managing to soldier on via uh, my phone as a mobile hotspot.
Hmm.
But this weekend I was at the Longview Wine Fest, which is sponsored by the East Texas Alzheimer's Association,
Hmm.
and they raise money for Alzheimer research and such as that. There was lots of people there. It was held at the Arboretum near the Bod Cobb Center.
Hmm.
Thousands of people were there, and My wife and I were there. We were there with their books and things like that, and had a great time. And as I've
Fun.
mentioned to you this before, tongue in cheek, it was a wine tasting festival. So, we
Give
had
them
people
wine
walk.
and they buy
So
books.
yes, we see people walking. As they were kind of going around in a circle. There was like 20, 30, 40 vendors, that were there. And as time went on, with each pass, I became a better and better and more prolific author. You know, uh,
You need to get
yes,
me
right,
into some of those, I'm
yes.
thinking.
Wine fests are great for authors, especially after the first hour. After first hour and a half, you're the next Nobel Prize, Pulitzer Prize winner, all rolled up into one. So,
So,
but
authors, a tip from Michael Scott Clifton, make sure to get into the wine tasting festivals.
yes, but seriously, they did a great job that hosting at the
Awesome.
city of Longview, and it was great. And and they held it. They will hold it once a year.
Mhm,
They used to hold it I think it was in in spring. They've been doing it in the fall. Don't know if they're going to continue that next year, because of COVID and that sort of thing.
mhm.
But fall was great. Weather was perfect. So yeah, we had a great time.
Gotcha. Well, today we're going to be talking about reviews. Now, some people kind of ignore us when we ask for reviews. Sometimes we get kind of cute and say, "Hey, you want to hug an author, give a review." So the question is, why are reviews important? Mike, can you help us out?
Sure. Um, Reviews for independent authors or indie authors
Any
are
authors.
any authors, but particularly for indie authors who aren't established, brand names like Stephen King
Mhm.
or John Grisham or someone like that.
Patterson, yep.
Patterson, James Patterson, others
Mhm.
are very important because it's how you get recognized, and also, as we were talking earlier, Par particularly on Amazon, the algorithms they use when a person is searching for a book in a particular genre or with keywords like fantasy or steampunk or historical fiction,
Sci-fi
right?
or yep.
Right.
Mhm.
Uh,
Paranormal. Mhm.
Reviews, help move your book up the list
Mhm.
so that, the more reviews you have, the higher up the list you are, and the more likely a potential reader is likely to come across your name. More to that, uh, most people, it's kind of a well-known worn trope, but most people, when they're looking at books, what do they look at? They look at book cover. Book
Mhm.
cover catches their attention. They might look at the back cover.
People do judge books by the cover.
They
So
certainly
another
do.
tip for authors, make
They
sure it's a
certainly
good
do.
cover.
Then they look at the back matter. But at some point, most are gonna Google your book on
Mhm.
Amazon or if they're listed on Barnes& and Noble or another site, and they're gonna see what the reviews say.
Mhm.
So, the more reviews that you get, and of course, I say this tongue in cheek, uh, you know, of course, every author wants a five-star great review.
Oh, that's not
Uh,
tongue in cheek, that's
right,
literal.
right,
We want a five-star
right,
review.
we
We
do.
would love a five-star review
Yes,
if you feel it deserves a
right,
five-star review.
right. But really, any review, uh, is as far as the algorithm goes, more reviews you get, again, the better notice you have. Now,
And it
there
doesn't
are
even have to be huge. It doesn't have to be
no,
several paragraphs or just simple, "Hey, I like this book. I like what it did," or kind of describe a little bit about how it
right.
made you feel. You know,
Matter
did this
matter of
book
right.
mhm, touch your
Matter of
soul?
fact matter of fact, if, one-page reviews probably aren't gonna be read anyway, according going to your point. A paragraph or less on a
Mhm,
review generally is pretty good. And as you stated too, we both have had uh, readers that have read our books that'll just put they'll just rate it. They won't even
mhm.
write anything down. But even
That
that's better
works.
than nothing. Yes.
Mhm. Definitely. And then there's also the difference between constructive and destructive. You have to be
Yeah.
careful on it. Now, authors, please be aware that there are trolls out there, people who like to take other people down. We don't know why they like to hurt people, but they do. So sometimes you need to objectively read your reviews. I do read usually at least the top 10, if not more. The reason I do is because I look for anything constructive. That's
Right.
number 1. I look for things like, okay, is there something that I can realistically change? Is there something that needs to be changed for future writing, for future books? And then the other thing I look for is ones that, you know, was this book written for them? And you can tell by the way they did the review if it was something that really touched their heart and their soul. Those in particular, I keep for those days where I'm sitting there going, why in the world am I an author? You know, those days where you're like, why am I doing this? Why do I put myself through this torture? And sometimes I use those for those days where trolls have come in and just gutted me for no apparent reason.
Right.
So, you kind of authors keep those. Those are, we talked before, hugs to authors are reviews. And so when you can find a book that you really like, just take a few minutes and just leave a review because it will help that author out more than you will ever know. And again, it's not because we're vain, it's because A, it'll help with the algorithms. B, it will also help us to figure out, can we change something for the next book? Is this not anywhere near realistic? But keep in mind, Mike and I both write fiction. So we have a little leeway in the realism area. Just keep that thought in mind. But is there something we can realistically change at the baseline of what we're writing? Is
Right.
there something that, you know, that we can figure out to fix for the next time? And again, they help with the algorithms. That's just
Right.
plain and simple. That's how that works.
Yeah. And you make a good point, and I think it bears repeating that, uh, people we don't just, authors, whether you're a mainstream or independent author, you just don't sit down and within 24-hour period come up with a 60 to 80,000 word manuscript. There's a lot that goes into it. You have usually you have people that are critiquing your work. You might have had it professionally edited. You have to find a book cover. I mean, it's usually months and months in the making. And so when you get a good review, one that's genuine and from the heart, as you were saying,
Mhm.
it reinforces, hey, I did something good. It makes you feel like all that effort has been worth it because somebody liked your book. And
Mhm.
that's worth a lot.
Yeah,
The
I
the
mean,
trolls, I've never really, I don't know what I've never understood what the end game was for that, other than maybe there's people out there with just some sick fascination with, you know, messing with people or just doing evil things. And certainly there's people out there like that. But, we usually know who those are by the
mhm.
comments. And, it just doesn't bother me because I know
Yeah.
it's not genuine.
Yeah, I mean, if you have something constructive, please, by all means, let us know. Because ideally, we want to make a better book for you that you can enjoy. But we can't if you're, pretty much gutting us for no apparent reason.
So, CJ, I've been asked this before. Uh, if someone wanted to uh, submit a review
Mhm.
for your book, my book, anybody's that they've
Mhm.
read, how do they do that? Where do they go? What's the process?
Generally, you go to Amazon. If you bought the book at a book show, make sure to notate that you bought it at the books at a book show, or that you were given a copy for a fair and honest review. Otherwise, Amazon will take those down if you are not a verified purchaser. Or if you simply want to buy the ebook, that makes you a verified purchaser. And a lot of times ebooks are 99 cents to 2.99. They're not normally much higher than that. So, for a cup of coffee, you can have a verified purchase, and Amazon will generally keep those up. The other place you can go to is Goodreads.
Hmm.
Goodreads is good for that. You need to It allows us to still go in and pick them up. Barnes& and Noble's another good one. If it's a paperback or an ebook, go to Barnes& and Noble. Pretty much wherever you bought the book, so ebooks, anywhere from iTunes to Kobo to Nook to Kindle, anything like that. Um, you can find out who did it. Um, as Leroy says, if I can't find something I want to praise for the writer, then I don't post a review. And that's perfectly fine. A lot of times, if you don't like the book, sometimes you can actually even email the author to tell them why you didn't like the book. So there's other ways that you can do it. Another thing that you can do is I've had people where they've put my book up, like they've taken a picture of them holding the book on like Instagram or Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever, and then they put the review in there. As long as it's public, I can share it. And I love that because it allows me to share it to people that I might not be able to get a review from the person for. So there are many ways that you can do a review, and trust me, it'll make that author's day.
Now on Goodreads, you do have to have an account to
Mhm.
lead a review, but
You
it's
do
very
on pretty much every
right.
place.
But it's painless. And
Mhm,
if you like to read, Goodreads is a great source for finding books that you like to read in your genre because when Goodreads likes for you to submit the books that you read, and when you
mhm,
reach what 5, 10 books, they
something like
start
that.
making book recommendations for you in the vein of along with the books that you have read.
Mhm,
So Goodreads is you don't necessarily have to have bought a book. uh, you don't even necessarily have to say, as you stated with Amazon, where you got the book or how you read
mhm,
it. You just simply have to, just write the review.
mhm,
With Amazon, just want to reinforce the point you made earlier. Verified purchases are carry more weight
mhm,
than reviews where you got a book at a at a book show or
mhm,
an event. But as CJ has stated, you're honest and upfront about that. But uh, you know, verified purchases carry more weight.
mhm,
But that's if you like a book and you didn't buy it on Amazon, that shouldn't stop you from posting a review as long
mhm,
as, again, what CJ has said, you're upfront and honest about how you came about
mhm.
purchasing
Was
the
it
book or
given it
reading it.
for a review?
Right,
If so, just post,
right.
"I know I was given a book in exchange for a fair and honest review." If it's at a book show, just say, "Hey, I bought this at a book show at XYZ."
Of course, if you're KU, if you got Kindle Unlimited,
Mhm,
then those books are there anyway. So you're already a verified purchaser, quote
mhm.
unquote. So, and many
Nice.
people are on KU. Yeah.
Mhm. That's for Kindle Unlimited for those who don't
Right.
know what that is, and that's on Amazon. But there are many ways to do a review. There's creative ways, but either way you do it, you're gonna make that author's day because doing what we do is tedious. Some people give us grief for charging, 2 or $3 for a book, but you have no idea how many hours have gone into
Hmm.
writing a book,
Yeah.
how many days, how many months even, how much the process is. We write the book. We go through and edit it so many times before we even send it to the editor. The editor goes through it, the copy editor goes through it, the content editor goes through it, they get sent back. We go through and re-edit it again, and then we edit it for the final time before we send it up for even publication. But then we're also working with a cover artist to get the cover done, and it all comes together for that book. So, charging $2 and $3, people get upset. Why isn't it only 99 cents or free? If you worked months and, weeks and months to do something, would you want to give it away for free?
Although we do,
Sometimes we do
book sales,
specials. Mhm,
specials. So,
mhm.
uh, you know,
We do. I'm just pointing out the fact that, for a cup of coffee, you could make an author's day,
sure. Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
can get a great read that you can read over and over and over again.
Right.
And you can always get something different. Leroy says years. It takes years to do it sometimes, yes,
Right.
depending on your process. Being a pantser, it takes me a month or two maybe to actually write it and then to edit it and then everything going. Probably 3 to 6 months top to bottom is what mine
Right.
is.
Hmm.
So speaking of reviews, today is review day, which I like review day because we get to make an author's day by reviewing their book. Mike, would you like to go first?
Sure. So, can you see this book? Okay. This book is called Metal and Bone by C.I. Chevron. And full disclosure, uh, uh, she is part of my critique group. I have critiqued this book chapter by chapter, so I know it. And so, just so everyone knows, she is part of my critique team, as she is for my books as well. But I thought it'd be nice to start off with her book.
Mhm,
Um, this is in the steampunk. Let me see. I got that straight. This is in the
yep.
steampunk genre, which is a subgenre of fantasy and science
Mhm.
fiction. And she has, as you can see, a killer. I love her cover.
Yeah, it's really
It's
cool.
awesome, and it's the first book in a series that she's writing. Uh, it can be described sort of like a fractured fairy tale in a mutant and modified series. So when the best description I can give of the setting in which the story takes place is imagine you're in uh, late 19th century England and Europe and all that's going on at the time. We know that later we had World War One, we had then World War Two, and in the late 1870s, 1880s, you're having the advent of the Industrial Revolution. Okay, very much a steampunk vibe there. So what CI Chevron has done is she has taken that environment, and she paints a picture which I knew a little bit about steampunk, but I didn't much read it until we started critiquing her work. But it's really fascinating because she paints a very vivid picture of uh, what things might have looked like in this setting. You've got London, England, the fog. Uh, you have uh, you have these fantastic machines
Mhm.
uh, that are powered by steam and others. And for as far as the modifieds go, in this setting, you have very much a world, if not at war, as we have seen in that particular part of the world with Europe and whatever. You do have conflict, and it has casualties, and it has consequences. And part of the consequences are that many of the people that live in England and London and in some of the other countries, uh, poison gas, acts of war have left them either uh, without body parts, blown off arms and legs and fingers and toes and other appendages, but also poisoned by gases and such, which leave them somewhat transformed, sometimes even in grotesque ways. And in this, we have into this setting, we have the character called Cinder, a thief who makes her living by stealing things from people who are generally much better off, but she leads a double life. She's actually not just a thief, but she also has a pedigree that would make her more of uh, I won't say quite aristocracy, but something like that. But her situation, and I can't really like CJ, you often tell me don't give away the whole story, because I say a little
Get
too
get
much.
get the meat out.
But 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 it really is sort of a steampunk retelling of Cinderella in a sense, uh, when you add all the other elements in there. So we know the story of that of Cinderella, but in this case, it's Cinderella because her thief's name is Cinder, but Ella is her nickname, hence Cinderella. You have a
Mhm.
prince, you have a world at war, you have the steampunk vibe that I think she perfectly captures. If you like steampunk, if you like uh, that genre, then I would highly recommend Metal and Bone, which, by the way, is the first book in a series that she's writing. She actually has a second book, Cogs and Fur, that's out, and she's also working on a third book that should be finished sometime into this year or early next year. So there are actually two books out now in that series, and Cogs and Fur follows Metal and Bone. You can find her. You can find CI Chevron on Amazon. You Google Amazon, or you can Google the title Metal and Bone. You can also find her books at Barnes and Noble. Metal and
Mhm.
Bone also is an audiobook if you
Nice.
like audiobooks as well. So it's a paperback, it's an ebook, and it's an audiobook.
And her website is actually in the comments,
It
so
is.
make sure to see those as well. You can visit her website. So that's a highly recommended book, huh?
I do. Yes, ma'am. I
Awesome.
I did again, if you've never read steampunk before, such as me, you will
Mhm.
still enjoy this book because the story's very good and it's fast moving and I like that.
Awesome. Well, the one I have is actually I figured, go for the time of the year. I'm doing a paranormal mystery by Miss Carmen de Sousa, and it's called The Library. It's actually 2 books in one. Kind of one is more like a novella called The Depot that plays into the rest of the story for the library. They actually go hand in hand, which is why she has them in the same books. It's a little creepy, so I wouldn't read it in the middle of the night. You might start to hear bumps and things that go bump at night through your house. But it keeps you guessing. Like The Depot, the first time I read it, it's like 4 or 5 chapters, I think. It's a small one. And so when I read it, I was not expecting what happened in the end, and the hair on the back of my neck stood on end. It was a little creepy, but if you like creepy, you'll like it. And then the library dives a little bit deeper into some pretty interesting stuff. It keeps you guessing. Honestly, it's the mystery portion. Keeps you guessing all the way to the end. And it's not until the end that you figure out, oh, because you're thinking, well, it must be this person. No, it must be this person. I'm pretty sure it's this person. And then it's like, the main character gets a little bit of extra help from, let's just say, the other side. So it gets interesting. So I highly recommend this. This is for Carmen D'Souza. Her website is in the comments in both of them. And you can get the library, which also, like I said, has the depot in it. So you get like 2 books for one. So you get twice the creepiness. But it's really well written and definitely would recommend it. So check it out. Well, looks like our time is coming to an end. So thank you guys for joining us. I really appreciate it. And next week, I believe we have a special guest joining us, if I'm not mistaken. And that is Ms. DC Gomez, who writes apocalyptic. So we'll find out what it's like writing apocalyptic and what her books are about. So stay tuned for next week, and we will see you all. And just please keep in mind, we're letting everybody know ahead of time. Come January, we're going to have to, you're welcome. Leroy says great reviews. Thank you. We're going to have to change our time starting in January to Wednesdays at 11. There was a scheduling conflict, but we've already got people scheduled through to the end of December. So keep that thought in mind. Come January, we're moving to Wednesdays at 11. In the meantime, if you have a book, you like a book, make sure to leave a review for an author. It
Yeah.
is sincerely a hug for them, and they will appreciate it greatly. So until then, enjoy, and we'll see y'all next time.
See y'all next week.